Good morning, Ludington, Michigan. Steve Baisden coming to you live this morning. Today is, let me think, what is it, June the 6th? Oh, Rhonda's correcting me. Thank you, honey. June the 5th, 2022. We want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. We want to thank everybody for communicating with us this past week. We've met some new people. We've had some new conversations, and it's always refreshing to meet people, even that disagree or have a different perspective on things. That helps us to hone in, to sharpen our skills, to dig maybe deeper into facts, because the conversations I have with people, I take them very seriously. And even though I have my opinion, I try to base my opinions on facts. I do not try to base my opinions on my emotions. And I think right there within itself lies a vast difference between ideologies. Some people want facts and some people just want emotions. And basically, in a nutshell, that is the problem with religion today as well. Too many people today believe that religion, especially Christianity, is an emotional thing. With some facts, but primarily based upon emotion. They think God's Spirit leads them and God's Spirit guides them some way separate and apart from God's Word. Now, friends, that does not happen. That does not happen. God is no respecter of persons. God is no respecter of persons. Paul said it. Jesus said it. James said it. The Old Testament prophet said it. God does not respect persons. Well, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean he's going to save everybody? No. It means this. God is going to give everybody the exact same opportunities, and depending upon how you respond to those opportunities, you will be judged accordingly. He's not going to judge people differently. He's not going to give people different messages. He's not going to lead people in different ways. God leads us today through his word. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16 and 17, the Apostle Paul wrote that all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for instruction, for correction, for reproof and rebuke, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished into all good works. What is it that thoroughly furnishes us into everything we need? All scripture. You would not know whether there be any Spirit or Holy Spirit if it were not for the scripture. So I just wanted to put this out here real quick. We're going to get into some other very interesting things in just a few moments. But it seems like this idea is becoming so commonly accepted today that we're just going to be led by God's Spirit, and whatever I feel and whatever I think is tugging my heart, and what must be God's divine Spirit working within me, and therefore I know it must be right. No, 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 and no, and no, and no. That's ridiculous. People, you wouldn't even know whether there be a Spirit of God if it was not for God's Word, and God's Spirit would never contradict His Word. If God gives us explicit directions within His Word, and He does, then God's Spirit would not direct you in a different direction or give you different information than what He has already provided us. Let's move on. My name is Steve Baisden. This program is being brought to you by your friends with the Church of Christ, located at 3816 West Fountain Road. That's 3816 West Fountain Road, Ludington, Michigan, 49431. My phone number this morning, where you can contact me live on radio or contact me later via text or call or whatever, is 231-425-6044. That's 231-425-6044. Come into contact with somebody this week that wanted to place a complaint about how I do the radio broadcast. I appreciate that. Thank you. Your opinions, I always value. And I consider them with great brevity. I do not take it flippantly. I consider it most in high regard. The complaint was something like this. Stop being so negative, Basden. I wish you wouldn't do that because, man, I need to be picked up. I turn on the radio. I want to be encouraged. I want to be happy. And besides that, there's nothing wrong with America. We're growing. We're getting stronger. We're doing better. Nothing's ever going to happen. It's ridiculous to think otherwise. And just look at Arizona and their growth. And there's a lot of positive news out there that we should be focusing on because we're not going anywhere and everything's good. But you're all doom and gloom. And I just don't think that that's cool. Okay. So I thought about it. I considered it. Based upon the facts, I think that that is 100% diametrically wrong. I do not believe that based upon facts. We're going to get into some of those facts here in just a few minutes. Please stay tuned because I've got some things coming your way that you're not going to hear on the media, on the typical average normal media. I got some information coming, but I also have some information coming on a major part of the problem with our society is the children that we have raised, the grandchildren that we have in our world today that we have that coming up, and their attitudes and how they're viewing things and what's being crammed in their heads and why the whole world's mixed up doing things the exact opposite of how they should be being done. So we've got some good information coming to you today, but let me start out right now by bringing you the rest of some more information that you may not have heard. You may not have heard this. And by the way, before I even get into this, let me say this, if I may. And I will. How you like that? All a reasonable thinking individual has to do is look at the gas stations to see we're in trouble. That's it. Look at the rising inflation. Look at the rising interest rates. Look at your shelves in your markets and see the prices of goods have gone up far more than what they're telling us. Far more than 17%. Look at the empty shelves. Try to find the baby food. Now, you guys have heard me say this, and gals, you've heard me say this. Look at the borders, the illegal immigration. Look at the lies and the deceit coming out of our tyrannical, illegitimate current administration led by Joe Stalin and Kamala Harris. I weep and I mourn for what's taking place right now. Let's take it one step further, shall we? Real quick, before we really get into today's message. Why don't we look around us and see the people around us and how they're living and what they're doing? Yes, let's be observant. Didn't Jesus say we can know them by their fruits? Let's be some fruit inspectors for a few moments. Let's see how they're living. Let's see what they're doing. The world is so full of greed. The world is so full of lust. The world is so full of lies and deceit and pornography and nakedness and the wrong kind of violence and war and people promoting abortions and people promoting homosexuality and there's no way on God's green earth he will allow us to continue going down this sinful, wicked, debaucherous ways that we have been going. It's increasing daily. It's increasing hourly. Just the mere fact that the vast majority of people just folded to the lockdown in 2020. To me, that's when I thought it was all going to end in 2020. Now, I was wrong. I thought the dollar was going to crash in 2020. Hey, man, I admit when I'm wrong, I was wrong. I thought by the end of the year, I may have said it on one of the radio programs. I may have not. I don't know. But good morning, caller. You're on Live with Steve.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me okay?
Very good. Thank you for speaking up.
Yeah, I was wondering if you got my text the other day about Muskegon City held its first ever Gay Pride Festival.
I did get your text, Jim. I've been receiving so many correspondence. Forgive me, I have not gotten back with you on that.
Oh, that's okay. You know, this county and this city has gone straight into the dumpster. I swear.
Well, yeah.
You keep it up, brother. I want the hard truth.
All right.
I don't want some flowery, silver-tongued speech.
Bless your heart,
Bunch
Jim.
of mush on nothing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that word of encouragement. I really do. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll let you go.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, lots of things going on right in Muskegon, and they're not the only town. I mean, it's happening in every city across the United States of America. But hey, don't worry. You know, this is the United States of America. We're exceptional. Nothing could ever happen to us because we're the United States of America. We're the biggest, we're the baddest, we're the smartest, we're the strongest, we're everything. Yeah, and we're nothing. Good morning, caller. You're on Live with Steve.
Hey, it's Dino.
Dino, what's going on, buddy?
You got it. Well, of all the stuff that's going on, not only in this country, but in this world, but mainly I'm going to focus on the United States, is for years I've always felt that, it seems like when bad people try to take something over, good people give in and let them take over instead of fighting.
Right. That's where I was at with the lockdowns. When I saw all that and I saw all the people just caving. Now, I know for a fact, Dino, you were one of the few, I could think of a few people that refused to comply, and bless your heart for that. And I'm there with you. I was there with you, and I will continue to be there. In fact, I've got an idea. I've got a wonderful idea when they bring this around again in our near future, how we can respond. But go ahead.
But anyway, yeah, and then secondly, to top it off, and specifically referring to the politicians, but other people in general, us Americans, allowing all this stuff to happen, not even attempting to stop it, like all this
Exactly.
invasion of our country from aliens from other countries.
Exactly.
It's bad enough that that's happening, but to allow it to happen, that's
Exactly.
even worse.
Compliance. Yeah. And by the way, the Bible forgives our apathy with these things, or excuse me, forbids our apathy with these things. We're not supposed to be compliant. We're supposed to stand against bad things, not just be apathetic toward them.
Right. Well, I think some people have the wrong impression about what religion is really about.
Absolutely, my friend. That's one of the main reasons we're on the air. I appreciate that.
And they need to get on track. We need to go back to the old ways. That's why they're old, Steve, is because they work.
Yes, amen. I agree.
The old way always works.
I agree.
Change is never good unless you're doing something wrong.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
The only time that change is good. Other than that, leave it alone. It's just like when somebody buys a restaurant or a bar that's for sale, and then they change the name. Well, then they don't last very long because they change the name because people are used to that bar or that restaurant being a particular name.
Okay, yeah.
And it's the same with everything else in life. Us good people got to put up a fight, quit tolerating.
That's right.
Just all this corruption and evil and everything.
Yes, sir. I agree.
I'll just give you a real quick example, then I'll call it quits. But
Okay.
when I was in grade school after my dad died, I used to beat bullies up for picking on sissies. And I didn't like sissies either, but I would teach the sissy how to fight, but I would beat up bullies because bullies are picking on weak people, which would just grind me.
Yeah, I got you. Yep.
And that's what us good people need to do. We need to stand up to the bullies. I mean, since when do our civil servants become our masters?
Yeah, it's 100% diametrically opposite of the way it should be right now.
Well, I got a quote from David Rockefeller that in order to be a good master, you have to be a good servant first.
Oh, I like that. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Let's put a stop to that. We got to start working on it and boycotting stuff. People don't have to get violence is a last resort for
Sure.
curing a problem. Just boycott. Just refuse to cooperate.
If we stood in solidarity and unison, that would stop 90% of what's going on. But nobody's standing up, and nobody's standing up together anymore.
I know. It's just that, and the politicians, especially the Republicans, allowed Gestapo Gretchen to stay in office.
Yeah.
And they were going to impeach her, and then that Chatfield guy, I left him a nasty message way back last year or whatever, the year before.
Good for you. Yeah.
He's from Levering up there. Now he's Now he's being charged with sex crimes.
Oh, wow. Well, I appreciate the call this morning, Dino. Thank you, my friend.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks. All right. 231-425-6044 if you want to get in on the fun. 231-425-6044. Now, let me give you some news that you may not have heard. Thanks to climate change fanatics and green energy wackos, 2/3 of the United States faces blackouts this summer. Have you heard this great news, people? Have you heard it? If you're watching on YouTube, I have a map up of the United States of America right now. You can see it in parts of Canada, it looks like. And this map is showing where they're expecting these blackouts to take place this summer. Now, we, that is Michiganders, are in the red zone, or we're one of the highest at risk zones. Now listen to this, folks. This says, this is reported on Hal Turner Radio Show. Tough news keeps coming for Americans struggling with high energy prices. Not only have gas prices broken records for the past several weeks now, but a good portion of the country is being told they should expect rolling blackouts as we enter the hot summer months. Now get this, folks, listen. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, North American Electric Reliability Corporation, also known as NERC, officially released its summer report last week, and almost 2/3 of the country should prepare for a possible blackout. Have you heard that news? I bet you haven't. Now, why would Michigan be in one of the red zones? Let's think. What did, I like what Dino said, oh, Gretchen. I call her Dim Whitmer because the light is not bright in that mind. It's very dim. In fact, it's dark, it's gone, it's out. But at any rate, whatever you want to call it, why would Michigan be at the highest risk for these blackouts coming? Oh, and by the way, let's put two and two together here before we even get into the why. I want to do some simple arithmetic, okay? And for those of you who are listening, that cannot understand 2 + 2, let's simplify this. 1 + 1. We'll make it as easy as we can, okay? What would happen if you owned electric cars and then you have no electricity to charge the cars? What would happen? Oh, you can't go nowhere, can't do nothing? Oh, but you need to buy the electric cars. Why? Because of the mean old bad old fossil fuels that we're using. Oh, but it takes how many mines and how much diesel fuel to mine the lithium and all the products just to make the batteries of one car is astronomically huge, to transport it, to put it together, to construct it. Listen, to power the power plants, to make the electricity. People, you don't know what's coming our way as the far left continue down this wicked, terrible, awful path of trying to outlaw God's natural resources that he put here for us to use with common sense and decency. But at any rate, what would happen to your electric cars when you have no electricity to charge them? Oh, okay. Maybe not such a good idea, you think? Maybe? I don't know. Okay, let's continue. Why is Michigan in the red zone? Because, oh, Gretchen, Dim Whitmer, maybe because she's cut our pipelines and started cutting our natural resources for our electric plants to run, and is doing all she can to cause us these problems. Oh, but it's just a transition period, you see, and we might have to suffer for this transition period. Why are we transitioning to anything? Why on God's green earth would we want to transition to something that's going to cost us more money, going to cause us more harm, going to be more environmentally dangerous and bad for the environment in the long run? Because these people cannot see beyond the end of their nose, because they don't realize that electricity still has to be produced somehow to run the stinking electric cars, because they don't understand that people are going to freeze to death and factories are going to shut down when they start removing our natural resources and trying to force us to depend on wind and solar, which do not work as well as what they claim, which is why it's all subsidized by the government. Why are they forcing us into this transition to begin with? Listen, we've gone insane. Oh no, wait, stop, hold it. That's not based in. This is America. It's all good. We're getting stronger by the day. We're doing better every day. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me give you some more news. Russian senator urges missile strikes on the United States bases based in Europe. Did you know that? Did you know there's a Russian senator who's urging missile strikes on the United States bases in Europe right now? Because the United States is supplying Ukraine with all their weapons? What would you suppose would happen if they did that? Well, let me give you some more. Let me give you some more. Are you ready? You folks, are you sitting down? Medvedev of Russia. In a TV interview with Al Jazeera Television, Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Security Council of Russia, said, "This is not a forecast, but what's already in play. The horsemen of the apocalypse are galloping ahead, and we can only look towards God." Now, Medvedev used to be the president of Russia back in 2008. But Vladimir Putin took over the presidency after that and appointed him prime minister of their defense now. Medvedev's top agenda as president was a wide-ranging modernization program aiming to modernize Russia's economy and society and lessening the country's reliance on oil and gas. Very effective in that way. They've done a lot of that. But recently in this interview, he said, there are things which are already at play regarding the horsemen of the apocalypse of the book of Revelation, how they're viewing these end time events. And he says, these things are already at play, already going down. Heard that on Fox News lately, have you? Okay. I didn't think so. Let's see here. Now, which one do I go to first? The United States is sending new HIMARS missile systems to Ukraine. Now, these new missile systems, folks, are capable of long-range usage. They go from anywhere from 50 kilometers to like 150 kilometers. Okay, it's not something that you just use in a battlefield. In fact, they're not made or designed for that. You can't even be used because the shortest range missile flies at least 50 kilometers. Well, we're supplying Ukraine with these things right now. They're starting to trickle in right now. Zelensky said, "We promise we will not use these and shoot on Russian territory into Russia." Well, Zelensky's promises are about as reliable as Biden's. They're not reliable at all. Recently, Zelensky broke the Minsk agreement. Recently, Zelensky said they're not going to have to follow the Geneva Convention. They signed into these contracts, and now he's just saying, you know what, we don't care what we said. We don't care what our promises are. We don't care. We're going to do what we want, how we want, when we want. They've withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. They do not honor anything. Their word is garbage. Their word is utter, complete trash. Oh, but they promised us they're not going to use these missiles upon Russian territory. Thank you for the promise. So we send the HIMARS missile. They're starting to, I believe now they're trickling in right now into Ukraine. And yesterday, Zelensky says, we're going to use them to hit Crimea. Wait a minute, hang on here. Isn't Crimea now noticed as Russian territory? Well, the Russians claim Crimea as being their territory, and it has been their territory since 2014. Zelensky says we do not recognize this. It's still Ukrainian territory, even though it has not been a part of Ukraine since 14. And so we're going to start hitting them with missiles. Oh, from the United States of America, where Russian citizens are and where Russian troops are and where Russian. Anybody seeing a problem here? Anybody see any kind of problem here? Since then, Ukraine started firing missiles on downtown Donetsk, killing civilians. Wow. Don't worry about the world, folks. The world's fine. Nothing going to happen to the world. You all ought to know that by now. Are you ready for this? Russia will strike decision-making centers not in Kiev if U.S. arms to Ukraine hit Russia. I want you to listen to this, folks. Then we're going to get into some other things. But the deputy chairman of Russia's National Security Council, their equivalent of a Senate, has warned that the Kremlin could target Western cities in Ukraine if Ukraine uses rockets supplied by the United States to carry out strikes on Russian territory, on Russia. President Joe Biden, illegitimate President Joe Biden, let me make that correction real quick, announced this week that his administration was sending long-range missiles to Ukraine, backtracking on an earlier statement that the U.S. would not be giving the war-torn country advanced weaponry. You see, Biden, this piece of scum crap that he is, one day he says something, then they backpedal on it. He's stumbling, he's bumbling around, probably doesn't even know he's still alive in his own head. He's saying all kinds of stuff. He spills the beans. The administration says, no, he doesn't really mean it. And then it happens anyway sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But he promised not to send long-range missiles, and now guess what they're getting? Long-range missiles. Dmitry Medvedev, a former president of Russia and current chairman of the National Security Council, warned there would be consequences if these were used against Russian soil. Zelensky came out last night and says, guess what we're doing? We're using these missiles to hit Crimea, at the very least. Ha ha ha! Medvedev, the chairman of the National Security Council of Russia, told Al Jazeera, if, God forbid, these weapons are used against Russian territory, then our armed forces will have no other choice but to strike decision-making centers. Of course, Medvedev continues, it needs to be understood that the final decision-making centers in this case, unfortunately, are not located on the territory of Kiev. Now, folks, I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't even claim to be smart. The only thing I claim to be is honest. What I'm giving you right now are facts of statements given by tops of the heads of the state of Russia and of Ukraine and of the United States of America. I'm giving you facts of what has been said. We are sending long-range missiles to Ukraine. Ukraine says we're hitting Crimea, which Russia says is Russian territory. Russia says we will, unfortunately, have to hit the decision-making centers, which are not in Kiev. Now, please tell me, I want to know, please tell me where the decision-making center in the United States of America is, where's that at? That would be hit, who made the decision to supply the missiles that are going to kill Russians and hit Russian territory. Where is this decision-making center located? Please, now for those of you who are listening, and I got a lot of you, there's a lot of you out there now. 1 + 1 is 2. Follow me here. Don't disconnect yet. I know your brain's melting. I know you're smoking right now, and out of your ears. You can't take it. I can smell the rubber burning right now. It's coming from all over Ludington. Let me help you. The decision-making center in the United States of America, where the decisions were made to ship the long-range missiles to Ukraine, who's going to be using them to kill Russians and hit Russian territory, is, you ready? Washington, D.C. That's the decision-making center. Russia says we're going to hit decision-making centers, unfortunately, which are located outside of Kiev. They're not in Kiev. They're not there. Well, where did the decision come from to send Ukraine our long-range missiles? It came from the Biden illegitimate administration. Joe Stalin, Kamala Harris. We're going to hit the decision-making centers. That's what Medvedev, chairman of the National Security Council of Russia, said yesterday. Now, I personally hesitate to say what I'm going to say. I really do. Rhonda's looking at me like, oh no, Steve, please don't. I love you, baby. If it wasn't for her, I'd be in all kinds of trouble. I'm just posing this as a thought. Would it be such a bad thing if they did hit DC? Took out all the scum and the trash for us? Would that be so bad? I'm just saying, I'm just asking. It's rhetorical. It's a question. Let's just say they use one of their hypersonic missiles and hit the decision-making center, like Medvedev said, because the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are already at play, Medvedev said. It's already going down. It's happening. They're expecting the end times in their mind. The Bible doesn't teach that as is viewed today, but that's how they view it. That's how most of the world views it. I mean, they're messed up in their ideology and how they come to these conclusions, but these end time things are already at play, Medvedev said. Now we're going to have to hit the decision-making centers who made the decision to send the long-range missiles to Ukraine to hit Russia. I'm just trying to add this up. I'm trying to put the pieces together. In my mind, the only place that made the final decision to send United States long-range missiles to Ukraine is Washington, D.C. And then I pose the question and I ask, would it be so bad if they took out D.C. with all the scum, the trash, the garbage that presides there today? Would that be so bad? Well, yes and no. You know, I believe in taking out the trash. I believe in doing away with the scum and the filth of the tyranny that's taking place today. I believe in that with all my heart, all my soul, all my mind, all my being. It's biblical, it's Christian, it's patriotic. I think it's everything that God would expect a morally sound individual to be accepting of. But unfortunately, that would bring about something else. That would bring about a retaliation, would it not? Would we not have to retaliate? Would we not have to respond? Now, if you're on the other side, and I'm just sitting back. Listen, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm Saturday morning quarterbacking. Okay, the game's tomorrow. these events have not yet happened. They're in our future. Looks like things are going to happen. If you ask me, I mean, if you take any legitimacy from these leaders and these heads of Russia and Ukraine and U.S., if you take them and you assess them, it looks like it's going to go down. And if we get hit, if they hit our decision-making center and we retaliate, do you think Russia understands we would retaliate? Or do you think do you think Russia believes they could just hit us and we'd sit here and say, oh, not a big deal. Oh, okay. Oh, well, whatever. I still got my job. I'm still going to work. It's all good. Hey, America's doing fine. I mean, look at our growth in Arizona. Yeah, you mean the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of illegals going to Arizona? You call that legitimate growth? At any rate, I'm sorry. I digress. So if you're Russia and you're planning this, and you know if you hit DC, there's going to be retaliation, what would you do? And I'm just asking. This is rhetorical. Well, if you're in the decision-making circle in Russia, and you feel like you've been cornered to the degree that you have to hit the decision-making center that is supplying your enemies with missiles that are killing your citizens, and you got to do something, and you're going to do something, and you're going to take out the decision-making center, but you know with that, the enemy's going to respond back probably in a major way to hit more of your territory and hit more of your civilians in your motherland, what would you do? If you feel you got to hit and you got to strike and you got to stop this, would you just stop with the decision-making center? Would you just say, there, that'll teach you a lesson, fully expecting to get full retaliatory measures thrown back at you? Would you do that? I wouldn't do it. Me personally, I wouldn't do that. No way. I'd go for the gusto. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. If I felt that it was necessary that I had to engage, I'm going for the gusto. I'm going for the knockout blow. I'm going to one good solid punch right in the jaw, right in the nose, wherever you want to hit them, right in the Adam's apple, whatever. One big solid hit, knock them out so they can't retaliate. They cannot retaliate. That seems to be the most plausible, rational way that they would respond. To me, I mean, I'm just thinking, I don't know. Meanwhile, last night, North Korea shot off 8 missiles in the Sea of Japan. We went on high alert. They did that because South Korea and the United States were having military maneuvers in response to that. Meanwhile, China's saber rattling like crazy against Taiwan. Meanwhile, Israel just held its largest drills militarily ever. And the drills were specifically for training to take out Iran because major threats going on there. Good morning, caller. You're on live with Steve.
Morning, Steve. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tim. Good, buddy. What's going on this morning?
Here's a couple thoughts. Maybe what
Medvedev. Medvedev, yes.
Was talking to four horsemen was Friday afternoon, 2:07. All 4 Russian stealth cells took off from the force. Cannot locate them.
More news.
Four of them. Note the same number.
All 4 of their what? Say that again?
Just 4 of their stealth
Oh,
nuclear subs.
okay. Right,
They were
right.
just loaded with those long-range hypersonic missiles.
Well, and we don't even know this. We're not being told this, but Russia is right now, currently, as we speak, undergoing nuclear war exercises right now.
The trucks are on the maneuvers. Defense system is on red alert, and it's a go.
You know, Tim, I think we're in big trouble, buddy. I really do. Listen. This is not a game. These people, there's people, citizens, and territories dying and being destroyed. This is war for these people over there, and we are arming a people that have throughout. I mean, and Russia has no been. I'm not. Listen, I am not saying Russia is good. They brought a lot of this on themselves, no doubt, no doubt. But we're arming people that cannot be trusted to fight another enemy that cannot be trusted. And what do we think is going to happen? I mean, do we think we can just sit back and continue to kill these people and it go unchecked? I just don't get it, Tim. Where is the real leadership of this nation? Ah, man, that's a fact. That's just a fact.
Another reminder to the people, those four subs, like I told you last week, what if one parks 100 miles offshore, get to New York? Well, there's three information centers: the UN building in New York, Washington D.C., and the Pentagon.
Thank you for bringing that up. There's more than just D.C. Yes, that's right.
Each one of those just down the coast from that sub out there 100 miles, it would take 7.5 to 9 seconds of launch time to hit those 3 points.
Right.
They wouldn't even have time to say goodbye.
That's just a fact. That's just a fact. Meanwhile, they're killing all of our chickens and destroying all of our eggs and our egg producing, chicken producing plants like the one in Minnesota that produces 3 million eggs a day is being burnt, and crops are being destroyed, and all intentionally. And I never, everything's good, man. Hey, give me good news on the radio. I don't want this negative stuff, man. Stop it.
All right, here we are, brother. Got a good one going again. Thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, Tim. Does anybody out there? I mean, I know there's a few informed people, but does anybody out there realize that Russia is undergoing nuclear drills right now? Nuclear war drills? Does anybody know that? Why isn't our news doing their job? Why isn't our news reporting these things? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Immediately following the announcement that we're sending Ukraine the long-range missiles, Russia, within hours, started undergoing nuclear war drills. Nothing's being reported. Breaking news. The first financial domino is being reported on Hal Turner radio show. Just fell. China's Evergrande is now officially in default. Now, for those of you, again, who may not be able to add 1 plus 1, much less 2 plus 2, many financial experts have assessed that if Evergrande defaults, the entire economy of China is in serious, serious trouble, and the whole system may collapse. What do you suppose they might be tempted to do under such circumstances? I'll leave that to you. Former President Ronald Reagan. My favorite president of my lifetime, by far, made this astute observation, and I quote from President Ronald Reagan: "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free." I believe, now let's move on. I believe getting text messages of folks responding Sorry if I'm a little distracted from time to time. I believe one of the grave problems in the United States of America today is what I would call the rod of correction. It's not being used. It's not being used. And I'm not only talking about a rod of correction for children, which is a major problem in our nation today. Our whole nation has gone insane. Don't spank your kids, it will hurt them. It will hurt their real feelings. But the same goes with criminals and people who out there who are doing unjust things and living certain lifestyles. I believe the rod of correction must be employed throughout the United States of America. I believe it starts with the youth. Absolutely. And I'm not talking about child abuse. I'm not talking about when something's done in anger or with ill will being thrust upon a child. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about reasonable, righteous, good discipline. The greatest thing my dad ever did to me in my life, and my mother, by the way, I could tell you some stories, is whoop the tar out of me. And I'm not talking about with their fist. I'm talking about, and I hated it. Oh, did I hate when Dad would say, go cut me a switch. I had to go cut my own switch off the tree, you see. And he said, if it breaks while I'm whooping you, I'll go get my own switch and you'll get it twice as bad. So I had to go get the best switch I could find. Because if the one I got broke, Dad's going to give it to me twice as much because he's going to have to go get his own. He didn't give me just a couple swats. He would hold me in my arm with one hand and rear back with his right hand and hit me in my bottom with the other hand with a switcher at his belt, and I would feel the pain. Never forget, one time my mother whooped me like that. When Dad got home, he whooped me again over the same thing. I'll never forget one time I was whooped for something I didn't even do. It come to find out my dad had whooped me over something that took place in the neighborhood by some neighborhood kids. It was accused that I was there, and I really wasn't. When he found out I wasn't, I said, Dad, you owe me an apology. He said, I'm not. He said, listen, just consider that for one I didn't know about. Okay. In fact, let me go one further. I want to tell you this quick story about the greatest thing in my life my dad ever said to me. And it's not, I love you, son, you're such a good boy. No. Let me tell you the greatest thing my dad ever said to me in my life. Quick story. But I want to share this with you because I believe it's relative. 16 years old, I had my own car. I parked it next to the house, and Dad would sit in the kitchen, and he'd have a cup of coffee in the morning, and it was a Saturday morning. I guess he wasn't working, and I had somewhere to go. And it's cold outside, right? And I go outside, and I start my car, and it's spitting and it's sputtering, and it's not running good. And I raise the hood and I look around and I tinker around. I pull on a couple of wires. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm looking at, right? So I walk inside. I said, Dad, something's wrong with my car. It's not running right. He said, yeah, I can hear it. He said, your choke's sticking. He said, take off the air cleaner. He told me exactly what to do. There'll be a lever here. He said, flip it up and open your choke. So I went out, I took off the air cleaner. I knew how to do that. And I'm fumbling and bumbling around with the choke, and the car's going, and I can't get it. So I go inside, Dad, there's something wrong with my car. He said, I told you what to do. He said, if you listen to me, he said, here's what you do. And he told me explicitly how to do it again. And I went back outside, and he's watching me from the kitchen window. And I'm tinkering around, messing around with the carburetor, and and it's not going. And I come back in and said, Dad, what you're telling me to do is not working. He looked at me with disgust, put his jacket on, put his shoes on. He walked out. And folks, I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating. My dad bent down under that hood with one hand, flipped one lever on my carburetor, opened the choke. My car went smooth as silk. Dad stood up, turned to me and looked at me and said this, I never in my life dreamt that I would have a son as stupid as you are. Well, that hit me like a thunderclap. I thought, what in the world? I can't. Dad said this to me, and then all the while I knew he was right. At that moment in my life, I knew I was probably the stupidest son my dad had, and he had four of us, 4 boys and 3 girls. And then I thought, Baisden, why didn't you just do what Dad told you to do, how he told you to do it, and you would have fixed it yourself? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you really listen to him? He told you exactly what to do, and you didn't do it. That's pretty stupid, Steve. Yes, that's pretty stupid indeed. And I determined right then in my life, I made a distinct determination right then in my life that I would never be that stupid again. That I would listen clearly and distinctly, and I would be careful to do exactly as the instructions directed. Whether it's biblical or constitutional or medicinal or with mechanics or whatever it is, I'm going to follow the rule books. I'm going to listen to the instructions and I'm going to do it. And I'm never again in my life going to be this stupid. My dad passed away about 12 years ago. He can't hear what I'm saying, but Dad, thank you. Bless your heart, and I love you to pieces. I don't hate my dad. I don't resent my dad. He didn't hurt my feelings. I'm not a little snowflake like we're raising today, wondering if I'm a boy or a girl. Worried that I might... Don't worry, Baisden. I want good news. Tell us how great America is because we're doing so fantastic today. And things are wonderful today. And we're raising our kids and we're letting them make their decision at 4 years old if they want to be a boy or if they want to be a girl. And we'll raise them up this way and we'll do these things. And then we'll never spank them. We'll never say anything bad about them. And one of my best friends, lifelong best friends, raising their children, 3 boys. I don't care what you do in life. I don't care if you grow up and you are a homosexual, you decide to be a homosexual. I will still love you and I'll still be good. That's the biggest load of garbage I ever heard in my life. And I told my friend that at the time. This is the biggest mistake you've ever made. What in the world are you thinking? What's going on in your head? You just can't be telling people that they can do what they want with no consequences attached to it. Oh, but you do something bad and there's good consequences attached to it? That's the mistake the United States of America has been making, not only with our children, but with its citizens. It's okay to cheat, to lie, to steal, to get ahead. It's okay to have abortions because, it was just a mistake anyway. Instead of teaching people that fornication is a sin and will send you to hell and you need to abstain from fornication, we say, it happens. Just go get it fixed. Go on down the dock and get yourself an abortion. Kill the baby. It's all good because your consequences, really don't have bad. Your actions really don't have bad consequences. God gives the final word on discipline. He made us and he knows how we function. He knows what we need. Therefore, listen to what God says. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, you little snowflake pansies that are listening to me out there right now? Are you listening? He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Proverbs 13:24. Betimes means to be early at the task in good in season or time, in a short time speedily. We're going to discipline him and we're going to do it immediately. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. Proverbs 19:18. I can remember, oh man, and they're great memories. I can remember Dad whooping me with a switch and it stinging and hurting and me crying, and he wouldn't stop. He just, you gonna do that again? No, Dad, no. Why did you do it? I don't know, Dad. Didn't your mother and I tell you not to do it? Yeah, Dad. You gonna do it again? No, Dad. And he's whipping and whipping and whipping, and I'm crying, and please stop, Dad. And meanwhile, my three brothers are standing there laughing at me. They're laughing while Dad's beating the tar out of me, and he keeps going and he keeps going, and that's what this reminds me of. That's exactly what this reminds me of. Chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. My dad sure didn't let his soul spare because of my crying. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with a rod, he shall not die. Wow. We've got it the exact opposite today, don't we? Now, I had intended on giving the entire lesson this morning on this idea of child correction and how to handle discipline in the United States of America based on biblical principles. But I think you get the idea from just this short little last 5 or 10 minutes that we've been discussing these things. Taking away our God-given right to our guns is not the answer. Criminals do not follow rules, but neither are we in dealing with them. Anybody ever stop to think that maybe, just maybe, had the Uvalde shooter and these other shooters in Buffalo and around the United States over the past decade or two, whatever. Anybody stop to think that maybe had their parents brought them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord, that they wouldn't be this way? Maybe it's because we've removed God out of our family structure and out of our society. Maybe it's because we're not whipping our children and teaching them there's consequences to your actions. Maybe it's because we're not instilling some fear, the fear of God, into their souls. Maybe because they have no respect for human life, because they don't understand how precious life is, because they don't have a godly understanding of it. Maybe it goes more than just dealing with the individual. Maybe you ought to start looking to the core of the problem of how there was a time in the book of Judges chapter 2 when God said there arose a generation that knew not God. We've raised a generation of children that know not God because we don't know Him, because we're not teaching them, because we're not involved with God. Neither will our children be. And it continues to be a cycle of disparity, of debauchery, of wickedness coming down through the annals of our society. Huh. Oh, that's just bathed in. It's just doom and gloom. If you're sick of, and your religions are part of the problem, make no mistake, the fake, cheap, do nothing, be nothing, better felt than told religions of the world. Listen, I've had parents tell me, well, I think my child is endued with the Spirit of God, and therefore I cannot spank him. Well, listen, if you're running around saying, God talked to me last night, and God's Spirit's in me, and you don't think your kids are bright enough to see that you're a lying piece of hypocritical garbage, so you go to discipline them, and they let you think that the God Spirit's in them too, and oh, he's endowed, he's special. Yeah, I can't spank my kid. Yeah. We've got major problems. Major problems. They're not going away anytime soon. So what if Medvedev's warning takes place? What if he hits the decision-making centers that decided to sin? What if these things happen? I say, bring it. It's time. Oh, Basin, that's terrible. I can't believe you're saying that you wish. Listen, folks, listen. We're a spoiled, rotten brat running around in the world, thumbing our noses up at everybody, thinking we're the elect of God. Maybe, just maybe, God's fixing to give us the rod of chastisement, put us in our place. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that won't be such a bad thing. Maybe a lot of good things could come from it. I don't know. I'm not, I don't want these things to happen in one way. But in another way, if it's past the point of no return and we've gone so far that there's no other option, let me say it this way. I think this is a good, let me say it this way. God's will be done. And it's not some funny, better felt than told hunch that I have in the deep recesses of my heart. God's will is found in the Bible. If you want to be with a Bible preaching and Bible teaching people, you're not going to find it out there in the denominational world. You can find it with me. You can find it with our congregation. My name's Steve Baisden. My phone number is 231-425-6044. 231-425-6044. May heaven help us all. May God bless us all. Help us to turn around the evils of our nation. Help us not to turn a blind eye to it, but to fight it, stand against it. And oh, by the way, I'm out of time now, but coming very soon, maybe the next program, I'm going to be talking to you about how we can deal with the next lockdown scenario that in all likelihood is coming very soon. 231-425-6044. Catch you next time.